So welcome to another exploration into consciousness with the Earth Nouveau Hub. Welcome. Good to have you all here. And today we're going to talk about aliens inspired by Sandrine. So Sandrine, why don't you kick us off and we'll take it from there.
Okay, so I have lately been listening to a book it's called The Little Book of Aliens by astrophysicist Adam Frank. He's a leading and well-known astrophysicist. Apparently, he has been working with all the big heads in astrophysics. And because I'm an avid Audible listener, so audiobooks, and this one is also read by Sean Pratt, who is one of my favorite narrator anyways. But The Little Book of Aliens is written in a style that is very, very approachable. So the book is, you can say it has like three parts. The first part is really a lot on astrophysics, what is the universe, defining, the definitions and giving you the terms, and when he's referring to this and that, it means that. In the second part, you get more into the discussion of, the mainstream and throughout the culture of recent culture, our century, on what just Jen was just talking about, the unidentified flying objects, and then going to the UPA, the unidentified not flying objects, but defined objects that are now in the skies, and how this also in mainstream became the UFOs, the flying saucers, because that is actually a blunder by a journalist who people were describing it as like, it's a flat thing that is flying around with something on top of it, and then somebody just said, oh, like a saucer, and then it became the flying saucer for whatever reason. And then the third part actually is the optimistic outlook on why astrophysics is important, and how it is still very much in the baby shoes, although it has developed, over the last 50 years significantly. And then it also talks in the last chapters about, why aliens matter in a sense. And that is even more interesting, because the whole discussion then is on how, and this is also said in the book, on how, art is actually influenced science over the whole development of our culture, and how then science has not really been impacting on art, but how art continuously then, does impact on science, because of everything that has been written. And look at everything that has been written in science fiction, and everything that came from like Star Trek and all the, these shows and all the books and all that have been written, and where we are today, and how the importance of getting signals out there, in a sense, are important. But what is even more important is as what we are getting out from, what we can capture currently. And I don't know if you have recently maybe seen all the pictures that have been coming up from the James Webb telescope, the radio telescope, because you look at what Hubble, for instance, in the past has shown as pictures. You see Neptune, which is like a big blue ball. Now you look at the picture of Neptune, it has actually rings and moons, and it looks completely different. So all this evolvement and evolution that has been taking place in science, and looking further into statistics, looking further into how interpretation of this whole system has evolved, and how important that is to continue on this line of, and I don't want to call it the race for space, how it is currently also being negatively put by mainstream, but just out of the importance of exploration, in a sense. And so it's a short book. It's a very interesting read, and it brings you up to date on also why aliens matter.
Oh, fantastic. Fantastic. So, well, let's ask the question for us. Why do aliens matter? And I don't know, shall we define aliens first?
So
How is
just
it
to give you
defined in
just to
the
give you
book?
that just to
Yeah.
give you that parenthesis on what we are talking here when he's referring to aliens, or alien civilizations, which should then be a civilization that is how is he describing that? That is already okay, like an advanced civilization that can use a radio telescope. So if you have, so I mean, everything that is outside of the Earth is extraterrestrial. Okay, so but then an alien should then also maybe be somebody that we can talk to, because if they are flying, if they are flying octopuses, we cannot really talk to them because we don't have the language to talk to them, unless they are making, maybe they can emit, sounds that are translatable in a sense, so that we can understand them. And then here we come to the importance of mathematics and the importance of chemistry and the importance of physics again, to actually be able to do that. So alien, in a sense, would be an advanced civilization capable of, already, evolved technology in that sense. And one of the things in the book that he's also stating is that if we would ever encounter these beings or entities, would at least statistically be much, much older than we are, because we are just a blip on the currently, but we are also a very high, statistically low blip in a sense, because we are currently the only ones. Unless somebody has not manifested. He also speaks about dimensions, but he doesn't really go into the. He's not a proponent of the everything is here and now. The past, the present, and the future. It's more like he's looking at it from his astrophysics point of view, that things are continuously evolving.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So we're talking about aliens today that are not necessarily just extraterrestrial. Yeah. So off-worlders completely that probably have never even, had a lifetime here on this earth. But we're talking about interdimensional. So we're talking about advanced civilizations, right? That have soul codes to this place we call Earth, the planet. And then, of course, we have probably been part of those higher advanced civilizations, I would almost say we are a part of those advanced civilizations on some soul fractal level, right? So that already explains why aliens, advanced civilizations matter, because we are part of them. Jen, yeah.
I think we're coming, like, the collective consciousness is coming more into the frequency where they can receive some of that understanding and that knowledge, because like in the QHH2 sessions that I do, the last 4 to 6 months, almost every client I see in their session has a off-world experience where they recall a past life memory, and that was really rare up until recently, and now it's pretty much everyone. And even I did a record session for somebody that struggles to really get, well, he struggles with using his imagination, right? So like QHHT he's not there yet, but he has so many questions. So I've been doing records readings with him, and he was asking what his first lifetime was. And when I went to ask that question, I didn't just receive the information of it, like I experienced it. And he was part of a soul family group that incarnated, like when they came into being together as a planet. And I could feel myself in the crystalline structure of the rock of that planet. And so I think that where we are on a conscious level collectively is in the exploration of everything that we've been, everywhere that we are, and bringing that here now. So it's an interesting topic why aliens are important, because that's coming up even in sessions, that like everybody that comes in needs to have that recollection of being outside of just Earth. And I find that really fascinating.
And that's a really, really important point, because, I think when in the old days, when we looked at aliens, it was all associated to the flying saucers, and it was like outsider beings coming into this world, either now invading us or supporting us. But now, with our raised levels of awareness and consciousness, we're starting to realize that we are living here on this planet in flesh and blood and bone, and we're starting to have those memories, as you say, those recalls of our soul shards, living in different dimensions, literally simultaneously, past, present, and future. And also, I think this is very much like when we are starting to all of a sudden switch on certain gifts or talents that we haven't probably used in this lifetime, and all of a sudden we are drawn to certain things, and that could start with having a certain taste for something, or like wanting to eat something, or wanting to begin to paint, or wanting to no longer do certain things the other way around. It's because we're starting to connect to all those different soul fractals. And this is obviously the purpose of the avatar, is to bring all the different soul fractals, the gifts and the talents, and to start expressing them. And of course, it's not just the expression of it, it's also the realization of all the past lifetimes where we still have echoes of time that are still like, boo, 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 not being cleared karmically, sort of entangled. Those lifetimes that are not us, but they are a former version of us, they are coming to resolution as well now. And we are being the vessel, we are being the conduit. And this is where the peacekeeper comes in, right? And this is where the peacemaker comes in. And of course, this is also, and I'm done in 1 second, is also, we're not just looking at the higher dimensional beings here, but we have to really, talking about the land and talking about, the inner earth and all of this, we have to talk about the first and the second dimension, the crystals, the stones, like you just mentioned, Jennifer. And then, of course, all those beings that are high frequency beings that are living underneath the earth in a 2D dimension. And this is the thing where, like aliens, we all look up, but that's not necessarily the case. It's also good to just look down, or just look within and start
And
recognizing.
we can look at the legends of especially the Native American people. The Hopi and the Navajo have a long tradition of being taught by the star people, star beings. But also, if you look at the origin stories, they have origins of coming up out of the earth. It's sort of like these insectoid ET people, right, who came from inner earth, who have maybe been around for a very long time. And so you see like Kokopelli, right? He's like a dancing Ant-Man, really. So those stories and those origin stories in particular from the Native American culture, I think really speak of that, those beings that taught them how to live on earth, how to be connected to the stars, to the star ancestors.
Absolutely.
Think about the Mayans and being able to do the Mayan calendar, and they figured out that they could look at the sun through obsidian, right? And so they were able to study the path of the sun and the movement of the sun through looking through obsidian, which honestly, like I have a piece of it, I used it during the eclipse. Like the energy is completely different looking at the sun through that stone. So somebody taught them that.
Yeah.
Well, and then you have the Mayan civilization just sort of like disappeared. Did they ascend? Did they go in through inner earth? Right? Did they walk through a stargate? I mean, being in that Chichen Itza and climbing that pyramid of the sun the first time I was there and standing up on top of that platform, which isn't very big. It's maybe like 10 feet by 10 feet or something like that. Probably 12 feet by 12 feet. Didn't have a measuring tape, but I got the distinct feeling that here was a portal, a space-time continuum portal, right? So there's these places on Earth that you can walk through space and time. You can walk through distance. And I look at the picture that Martina has behind her today. It looks like a Stargate. So I've been working a lot with, the energetic Stargate systems, and I've just finished binge watching Stargate SG-1, and I'm now on to Stargate Atlantis, which brings in all of these different people that were seeded from Earth, from different planetary systems. So you have humans, scattered across the galaxy, the universe, to different galaxies, and the way that these ET species have interacted with them, and the ability to instantly travel between worlds that are light years and light years apart. It's just really like when I see something like that, right? And these shows ran from pretty much 1997 through 2010, basically. In this kind of like disclosure, if you're getting this in Hollywood, right, it's already happened. It's already happening. It's just information that's being disseminated, right, to the writing team that is allowing that energy of soft disclosure. So I find it really, really fascinating that's already there, right? But the common themes are fighting an enemy, right? Which is looping us back into that dualistic way of thinking instead of this unified way of thinking.
And I mean, just a reminder, this is why, we started Earth Nouveau 5 years ago, because we were talking about the inner Earth. We were talking about the tens of thousands of advanced beings that are living under the soil, in a completely different reality, and some of them, as we said many times, like Trocarius, they live between the atoms. They are shapeshifters. Those are, and lots of them have left, because there was a big faction that was working with the surface world, and more often than not, it was the subsurface that was actually calling the shots. And now this is maybe something we can do on a remote viewing, from a remote viewing perspective at some stage, to just have a look and see what's going on down there. But I mean, they're, as far as I'm concerned, they're just as much rattled as we are up here because of Gaia going through her completely rebirthing sort of process, So what I think what we can say here is look up and also look down, and just we've already seen that some of those extinct animals that are, like dragons or unicorns or all these animals that have gone extinct, they literally reside in the inner earth. And I think we learned at that stage, I remember AB saying, is if you live on the surface, there has to be an ancestor subsurface in order to keep that possibility or balance. Yeah. So
I think about that book, that one of the books that I read, Voyagers 1 by Ashiana Dean, and she talks a lot about the Zeta people who basically created a black hole in their planetary system that sort of ripped through the fabric of time space and made their galaxy unsustainable. And they ended up coming here, right, trying to learn how to fix what was broken, right? But also that included their DNA code where they were unable to physically reproduce anymore. They had to reproduce by cloning. And so that invitation in the 40s where they contacted, what was it, Eisenhower? I can't remember if it was Truman or Eisenhower, but the president gave permission, unbeknownst to the citizens of the US, for, to get exchange of technology for giving up rights of citizens to have their, genetic material harvested, right? So these beings could have a chance to come back to their normal way of functioning, which they'd gone away from over time, right? And I mean, that didn't end up working for them, but, and then there became like these split factions between those two races. One that was still, using humans, and one that wanted to work with humans. So, even when we're talking about different ET species, there is that split of this energy of peace and unity and the energy of division and duality still, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if they think they're more advanced, right? In some senses, yes. In some senses, no. Like they want what we have. Genetic material, right? The ability to reproduce in a biological way.
And frankly, this is what the human species is about, not to have the DNA harvested, but to step it up as healers, right? Step it up as healers, step it up as teachers, and actually come forward. And, you can literally trade DNA. You could do that. But on a conscious, aware level, then you can do anything. If you do it out of free will and choice, that's a completely different story than being harvested in unawareness and in ignorance. That's is through hierarchy and through non-sovereignty. That's a completely different story. But I mean, that could be part of the DNA, the official DNA commercial market, galactic commercial market that we are entering, where we are not just exchanging DNA, but where we also, well, we are exchanging DNA because we will be interbreeding different species, right? So from that perspective, there you already got it. But then you already have, oh, she's got to go. Okay,
Bye,
bye.
Sandrine. Thank you. Great to
Thanks
see you today.
yeah, inspiring this. And then, what I was going to say now is that on those galactic trading markets, we can literally, like in any market, like in any trade, we can cooperate, coordinate, contribute to other species. So it is, aliens do matter. Civilized, advanced civilizations do matter because Earth is a refugee planet, just like Tanya just explains so beautifully. And that makes me actually really, it's actually an oxymoron, all this bloody hoo-ha we do with people from different countries comes, being refugees in other countries. I mean, what the fuck, right? This is ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, just wait until refugees from other worlds, right? That comes
Exactly.
into the public consciousness, and
Exactly. And I'm actually wondering if this whole hoo-ha that we are going through with this refugee business is part of that as a prep, for people to actually start no longer or start seeing through the process being ridiculous, and we are being, citizens of this planet, citizens of the galaxy, citizens of the universe, celestial beings, all of us. Now, I suppose it's the same with the gender. thing, I think, the gender game that has been going on for so long now, and all the changes that we're going through, is it he's it a she's it this or that, that's all part of the prep work to what is yet to come, right?
Feels like that. Yeah, I think about like one of my Reiki master students, friends, was abducted as a child, had genetic material eggs harvested, and she has now 6 hybrid children who she's in telepathic communication with. So, that breeding program, right, has gone on, probably is still going on. And I'm sure there are humans who have given some type of consent for that to happen to them.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just, interesting. Yeah, she shared some really fascinating stories and communications about how these kids are working with other hybrid kids, right, to sort of like, I don't know, create a whole new way of learning, a whole new way of connecting, because their gifts and abilities are enhanced, right? Because not just human.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Now, Herminia, Annemette, Lana, Marissa,
Yeah.
how do you feel about any of that, what we are playing with today?
Well, for my point, I was driving. That's why I wasn't.
Okay.
But the thing, you coming, bring me like a journey, visualization. I started with. I don't know if anybody of you remember the cartoon that was the Jason. That it was, the sorcerer. Everything was automatic. He coming from the bed, the machine bringing him to the bathroom, helping him to shape, brush his teeth, everything that was out of a machine doing for him, and taking him to his car, flying from his car, big tower. I was memorizing all those memories. And I was thinking, for me, it was kind of natural. Even I don't know anything about other planets or anything at that time when I was growing up. Um, it makes me so much sense to see this like it was normal, and that's what I was memorizing those in my head while you were all talking about everything. And then I was remember about Andrew saying that he can be here and he has access to 2,000 or 20,000 different world. And then I was navigating with Carson, the one that had the hidden secret or numbers, when he was playing about how the planet goes different people talking about Taurus, Pisces era. Now we're talking about Aquarium. And it just make my mind. We are just navigating in a system that have different epochs. The Mayan and whatever, they were just different civilizations that were here at that time. And then we're thinking that it was like a regular, normal human being. And then I was navigating about Mattia de Stefano, that he said his high self, according to him, is integrating on him right now is GAN, that is from 6th dimension. And then we get information from other people that said in this planet we have like 12 different um, level of consciousness in these planets, 12 different level, being from the 12 the down, and now we supposedly were in the 3, and then we are in the 5 dimension between 6 and 4, because in 3 is when we can experience material. And I was navigating to one of the episode of Star Trek, that was this being that was rescued for the Galactic Federation, and they brought him to the ship. However, he had the ability to be kind like what they spoke humanity with Jesus Christ, the alive body. And
Mhm.
also he in his body, he knew his gene knew that he was unconscious, but when he came back, that they revitalized him after trimming in the chip, and like a doctor facility. But he started remember that he was able to transfigure his physical body to light body. And
Mhm.
he will start remember feedback when he was in his planet, that the whole civilization was able to do that. However, there was suppress to not use it for one of the ruler. It was like a punishment to use that ability until the whole society start forgetting about it, because they were punishment if somebody used it. And he was one of the few that escaped the planet. However, when they rescued him, he was able to remember his memories. And it's like it's really happening, because I'm really grateful that you mentioned all this thing, because I have me bringing me navigated so for so many different levels. And I was driving and visualizing. You were talking, I was visualizing different thing and different scenario and different, okay, this, okay, that. And it's kind of interesting, because if we are not really just this physical body, we are in different dimension, different time, different experience, different beings in different way. I can be maybe a dolphin in the ocean, or I can be like a whale in the Pacific. I can be like a dog in a place. I can be a tree. I can be so many things at the same time. And then we were talking about the alien. I said, where we can figure out William, in what box we put William, really, because alien is not really just saying alien people from another place. It should be like what really I am. I'm experiencing alien. Everybody's alien here, because nobody came from this planet. It was I mean, you put me navigated so many things back and forth. I was kind of laughing about it. It was kind of interesting.
Yeah. No, and as you say, Herminia, but this is what people are waking up to now, that this is actually a consciousness evolution, an evolution of perception rather than a physical evolution. Well, physical as well, because, our body biology changes as we are sort of switching on our light bodies more. But I think it's really, really important to stop wanting to have an alien or whatever you want to call it, land in front of the White House, but rather just really have a sort of an idea that you can have your coffee, and the next thing is you are having a conversation in your mind, and this is no longer imagination the way we actually defined imagination. This is a truth.
Mhm. Yeah, well, even though I was it was like a visualizing at the same time, beside imagination. However, I'm very clear that the people that are ready to be encountered with being from another planet or another species, they're going to be interacting with them. The people, like if I'm afraid to, they won't present it to me, because I'm afraid of, and I don't want to see it. I don't have the glasses to see them, or I don't have the openness to interacting with them. But I, from my knowing now, I know there's a lot of people interacting with humans from another species and from another planet. They will never, they will have, I won't say never, but there's a much time that we got to go through for something to see happen in publics, because we are in this control manipulation matrix machine. I don't see from my point of view something that's going to happen. People hoping that they coming, the chief coming, the alien coming, they're going to present in themselves. I don't see that from my point of view right now, until we don't have like a higher level of human openness and consciousness open for that, because they are having here all time. They're acting, they're acting, interact all time. But who has the the one that had the knowledge, like Tanya said, that they had, exchange technology for the right to, to breed with human or use human um, body for experiment or whatever. But it's all kind of level. It's like, it was like for me, it's like it's so huge, the ocean. Like I said, which wave what's the wave I going to go right on right now? Because it's so immense. It will depend how I open it right now to receive or to wonder about it. That's my thing.
It is amazing. And I think, we can say, if you can imagine it, you can create it.
Mm-hmm.
This is the level of manifestation that we're going through now. If you can imagine it,
Yeah.
from a place of there's just no point of view that it's not, and you're matching that frequency, yeah, it's not something that you're doing because it's just something that comes naturally, innately being expressed through you, then it's gonna happen. But all of that consciousness revolution, evolution requires people like us.
Mm-hmm.
People, and there's no hierarchy in any of that. People who have done certain levels of self-mastery and sovereignty work, because we need those peacemakers and peacekeepers, and that doesn't mean we have to walk around with a sign peace for earth or some shit like that. This might be just me sitting in my gallery, Jen working in her engineering company, Tanya doing her her clients, God knows what else, Ilana baking bread, and everything like that, everything that we are expressing through. We are really the ones holding the balance at the moment because of the level of awareness that we have, and because of the level of consciousness that we have worked ourselves up to, or down to, whatever. It's not even an up or down, through diligence, right? Annemette, what do you say about that?
Yeah, for me, it has always been clear. I can put my video on, especially because I'm sitting in the sun.
Good.
Yeah, for me, it has always been about inner earth. I have always felt that there was something in there. And once I did a painting, I was told that one day I would meet a man from inner earth that would give me new seeds for earth, like plant seeds, and that I am a seed keeper.
Oh.
And for me, it's also about our vibration. For me, everything exists simultaneously. And I think when we are in a certain frequency, we are seeing certain things. As soon as we shift, we see other things. It's like discovering a new world, kind of. And to me, it's I don't think anything will come from the outside. It's more like it's already there. And I feel we are building up like a grid. It's like one light bulb goes on, another light bulb. So at some point in time, there will be so many light bulbs that will be the next reality, kind of thing. But I have also listened to Mila. I don't know if you know her. And she was really, we are both passionate by Earth history and what we're told and what we're not told. And she had, well, I'm really not good at remembering names, but she had all this story about Tartaria, all these mudslides and all the buildings that have under the earth. A lot of buildings have windows that stop in weird places, and then when you dig, you can see there has been something under. And all these fair towns, how were they called when they had these big electricity towers and fabulous buildings and all that? I think when that got destroyed, who knows where people went. Sometimes I'm wondering if they are just under the surface, kind of like, because if they were high vibrating, they can kind of navigate where they want to, not like they have certain options. It's like the mermaids that I talked to. Some of them when there was a cataclysmic event, I don't know how it's said in English, they had the choice to go home from where they came from or to go underground. So I think there's a whole world in there. And it's also, what would I say? Oh, I lost the train. In the beginning of the 19th century, they also, Mila said they had done some kind of, they did babies in they made babies falsely, like not naturally with women. And the next generations, how they were named, there was one that was called the saved generation. There was one that was called the lost. I don't know. I'm really sorry that I haven't done my homework before talking, but it was interesting how they named the generations after that. The last one, there was the ones who had no ancestors. They had no history. It has all been wiped out. And I have also wondered at why the painters in the middle of the 18th, how they were able to paint details in nature, like really good at it. And then all of a sudden it nearly became like, I won't say primitive, but how could it change like that all of a sudden, like to something totally different? And in Danish, all the poetry and things from that time, what was called, before all this happened, was called the Golden Age. So what has been hidden so that we won't remember? And are the unawakened people on earth this lost generation that were created falsely? Like, are they that? Is that why they don't wake up? And all of us else, we come from the outside to come in? I don't know. I have just been thinking about that this week. And I'm finished.
No, thanks for sharing that. I mean, it's a whole mixture, I would say. It's a whole mixture because we've all coming into this melting pot together now, right?
Yeah.
I find myself really witnessing those parts of me that are in different time streams and timelines and dimensional realities, being able to almost like look through her eyes. And there was a span of time, I haven't seen this in a while, and maybe because this part of me is just more integrated now, but I was seeing myself on a ship, right, doing specific type of security, right, for events where like this part of me is grounding the energy, like the boots on the ground, and then this higher dimensional part of me, this security officer on a ship, wearing almost like a Star Trek uniform with a little insignia, with those credentials, and holding a space for an event to happen, where Tanya is boots on the ground, and then this part of me, working with other people from the ship, are holding space. So all of these parts can come back into integration.
And you know what? You said something really important just now. You said parts that are integrated, you don't see that much. So it's for everyone out there who feels that they are not connecting to the past versions or fractal, soul fractal, anything like that, yeah? Through visualization or through dreams or anything like that. What if you have already integrated those versions, those parts, those fractals, and they're working as you, boots on the ground? And that's why, you forget to acknowledge that.
Yeah, because you've already integrated that energy.
Yeah.
When I was doing integration on different past lifetimes from different time streams, I would have memories that would come to the surface, to come into my awareness, until that part got integrated. And then it was another next. What's next? What's coming up next? It's almost like once that part is integrated, you can move on to the next.
Absolutely.
One. And now I'm seeing almost like myself as very big, like able to hold the earth in my hands.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So maybe now I'm integrating, my avatar or my rishi, those higher dimensional parts of self that don't look this size, that don't look 5'5". Right. Yeah. So I'm seeing that different perspective
Yeah.
frequently right now.
I
Nice.
have been noticing something else, and I don't know if you have. Before, it was just as if there was only up and down, and lately I felt like there was north, south, as if there was no up and down, and it was all mixed. And then I listened to Tim Wilde last Friday, and he said that he had gone to Germany and that he felt so different than in England. And I thought, oh, it would be, and I have been traveling around in France. And when I came back to where I lived before, there was this tension. It was horrible. As soon as I entered the Valley of Geneva, it was like, like that. And then I have landed in Denmark since yesterday night, and everything is so calm. But I have been knocked out by the energies. I woke up at 3. At night, I couldn't sleep. I had to massage, and it was like so strong. And I have been knocked out all day as if I could not function.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like there are lots of pockets, whereas before it was like one sphere. Now I feel there is like, I could feel different energies before for sure, that something vibrated different than another thing. But now it's like, it's crazy. It's as if each place is no longer in the same layers. It's as if you're going to another attraction park or something. It's where the things function differently. It's really fascinating.
That's
Uh,
amazing. That's amazing. It's such a good awareness to work with that, because it's the puzzle pieces coming together, and there's one piece of puzzle that was missing up there, and by you coming back into Denmark now, all of a sudden it falls into place. You now, may be able to, because this puzzle piece falls into place, now you can find this one on down here as well that you didn't see before, and maybe there was one in the wrong place. So it's all rearranging,
yeah, there was someone in the not in the right place. I
Yeah.
feel I can't even explain, Martina, since I came here yesterday. I said to my friend, I'll know as soon as I come out of the airplane. She said, oh, perhaps you need a little more time. No. I was out of the airplane. I breathed the salty air and I was just like, yes. It was like my whole inner child was going, yeah.
Fantastic.
And whereas before I felt good in France and I felt good in Denmark, but it's like I just belong here, kind of. It's really profound, and I don't dare to pronounce it yet, but everything feels so home and so as it should be. Like the mathematic equation is balancing out, whereas in France I felt so weird. I mean, the last 2 years it has been. I knew the tape roll there was no more tape in the roll for France. I knew it, but I just kind of didn't want to see it. So it's really
Fantastic.
interesting.
And it certainly shows in your energy. The energy is definitely shifted.
Oh, you feel?
Yeah.
I feel so grounded here.
Mm.
There is no weirdness in my head. It's just
Good.
calm.
Good. But then again, this is the Odyssey, right? Odysseus. That's what he had to do, had
Yeah.
all these different places and spend that time there to collect all those different shards and pieces of puzzles, so that when he did finally come home, everything fell into place. And that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to stay there forever. It just means that this is now the energy that is shown to you. So acknowledge it, be grateful, and see,
Yeah, I'm here for 3 weeks.
it's good to know what it feels like, and then once the change happens again, if it happens again, then you know. But that's that coming home is the metaphorical representation of coming home to you. And it doesn't matter which part of this world or off world you're going to go, you now know what it feels to come home to yourself.
Exactly. That's exactly it. And it's such a good feeling. It's like, and I don't have, yeah, it's just, I can't even explain it. It's just this joy. Like, I have this inner, like, wow. And my daughter, she has had the same. She went back on Thursday. She said, Mom, this is where I belong. She said the same.
Beautiful.
But I didn't go to my parents to avoid to go into childhood patterns, so I could really feel. And out of the blue, a friend, he gave me his apartment for a week. So I'm really grateful.
Good. Well, take it easy, take it slow, you know. But I mean, you're home, so wherever you go now, parents or not, you know, you're home. So,
Yeah, but have you also experienced you others? I asked the question if that certain areas have really changed like a lot, like whereas before it was more homogen. Do you say that? No, homogen. How do you say it in English?
yeah, I would say yes. No, I'm sure it does. I mean, people change. Separation of densities hitting not just our experiences with the people, animals, you know, as well. Clothes, everything is being affected.
But is the planet is changing? Everything where we're going we have something different. With the feeling of the vibration and the feeling going to be different because really the planet is changing. Then we are inside the planet.
Well, exactly. Yeah.
It's you know, interesting. I was just visiting my parents in San Diego, and my niece lives there who has a new baby who's a template holder for New Earth. And you know, my sister lives there. My aunt just turned 102, my great aunt. And one of the things I noticed when I was there must be a lot of work. There is a lot of work that's going on in the dream time space, because I was so tired just being in the presence of my parents, which, you know, parents can be exhausting. We all know this, right? But I noticed that, like, we were just hanging out one night and watching something on TV. I can't even remember what, but my mom just totally sacked out, totally fell asleep. And I was sort of like skipping the pond, falling in and out of sleep. And my dad was sitting in the chair, you know, he was totally Z'd out. And I just like looked around. I'm like, you know, it's like 8 o'clock at night. These are people who don't go to bed until like 11 o'clock, right? So I thought this is really interesting that we're all just so tired that we're dropping down into this dream time space where that new baby is sleeping like 500 yards away or 300 yards away, right? Drawing us into this recreational space in the dream time that is a depth and a breadth of it almost seems like a bridging point between the old falling timeline and the new rising timeline, right? That this dream time space is holding both energies, and just being in that space where I'm sitting next to, you know, the bearers of my genetic lineage, right? To hold that bridge in a way and work with that bridging energy so that the lower frequency, the falling frequency, can have its own dream time space, and those who are in this rising timeline can have our own dream time space. I feel like that's a lot of the work that's being done right now. So all of these people who have said, "Oh, I'm just totally exhausted," like you were saying, Martina, you know, you're doing some really deep work on the land where your gallery is, because you're just like in that space where you're having a hard time staying awake, right? And I heard what Lana said earlier, and I agree with that somewhat, but there's also this shifting that's happening in the dream time that is, I think, drawing us in to that depth and breadth of space, time, that we're not necessarily getting in the consciousness. So what I've been doing is just really dropping into that meditative state where I can be in the dreamtime state in a conscious way. And that's been helpful.
Exactly. And that's really, I was just thinking as you were saying, because that theta delta state is just the level of perception. It's a dimension. So it's not that you have to go to sleep now in order to actually be in the dream time. And this is why we were all saying that, or Abby was saying it obviously at the time, that this is a dream time awakening. That doesn't mean that we all have to, go to bed now and tuck ourselves in, and that's when it's happening. No, it is actually just when you're in a contemplative mode, like Tanya sitting with her parents, knowing the other baby's over there, and she steps right into that space and brings the light in, just like what we said early on with the gallery. You're doing exactly the same, and you're bridging whatever needs bridging as a peacekeeper, as a peacemaker, as a balancer and grounder of all those energies that are coming through. Absolutely.
Amazing.
Absolutely. So if you feel that you need a break, you need to relax, and you don't want to do, you still do, because you're still becoming that energy. And this is where the ease comes forward now. It's like you are it. Wherever you go, you are it. You don't have to say something. You don't have to, do anything. You just become that transformer, that transfigurator, by just walking through the shopping center, by just walking through Denmark, by just going over to your parents' house, just going through, the workspace that we're in, driving. Just by driving, you are impacting the drivers of the other cars. Just by movement, the movement.
How would you explain, because these last weeks in France, last week I nearly felt psychotic. I mean, I was sitting at a pond and I was staring and I was trembling and I felt like I was mentally ill. It was really uncomfortable. My daughter, she was there, and I said, sorry, I can't connect today. I could not connect with the pond. I could not. And I felt like I should go to, I have really felt so weird this last month in France. And I'm like, how can that be that I can feel so bad in one place? And then I go here and there's nothing of all that. How is that? I mean, my logical mind can't comprehend it. I'm trying, while we're all talking about bits and pieces and Tanya's space holder, I'm like, why did I go through all that deep psychological stuff? I had it as a child. It was not foreign, but it was like 150 miles an hour with it on. And here there's nothing of it. I mean, I can be in fear, but I don't feel psychotic. Or how I felt last week was really nearly scary. Like, I was observing myself. I was like, why don't you put consciousness in? Why can't you penetrate that sphere I was in? It was really, I still haven't figured that one out, like, because it was so weird.
I think our bodies have a different level of consciousness. And as our technology is switching on more and more, our bodies require to be communicated to. They really want us to be a part of the conversation that we are having. Instead of talking to other bodies, we'd have to talk to our bodies. And sometimes that's what I'm feeling. If we are not listening, then they are just going to go, I'm going to have to scream at you. I'm going to have to scream at you. And it's not necessarily a logical explanation. It's more like it's coming through pain, it's coming through destabilizing of your emotional state and things like that. And sometimes we are not meant to be in certain places.
Yeah,
Not meant to
exactly.
be in
That's what
certain
resonates.
places.
I think too, you know, as you're talking, Annamette, one of the things that I'm seeing where there were soul shards that were very difficult for you to integrate, right? Almost like screaming in your ear, see me, why don't you see me? You know, I'm you, why can't you see that, right? And when you're in Denmark, where you grew up, maybe those pieces were already integrated. Like you said, you felt some of that energy as a child, right? But maybe somehow those pieces of you became integrated. And so now there's a calmness there. But when you traveled through France, right, you've got Merovingians, you've got Knights Templar, you know, all of these different sort of like warring men who were you in past lifetime that are coming in for integration and healing so you can rebalance that divine masculine energy.
Oh, that resonates. But up here, my masculine is doing much better in Denmark. That's all I can say.
Yeah. It's because those pieces that were difficult to integrate previously in your life are done. You've already brought them in, right? It's just like the hard parts of some of those pieces that we don't want to look at, right? Where we've misused our power, where we've been warmongers or, you know, played into the global narrative in a way that when we look at it now, we're like, ugh, that was me. I did that. I was bad.
Yeah.
Right? I hurt people. I stole things. You know, I wasn't a nice person in that lifetime.
Yeah, I've
But
had enough of
again, you
that.
know, all of those circumstances make you who you are now. And
Yeah.
all of those DNA lineages that were you are coming together here and now to assemble your DNA, your fire letter codes in the way for your ascension. So,
Mm.
you know, I mean, even though we don't want to look at some of those things, some of the, you know, the dark priestess parts of us that burn people and, you know, killed people to take their power, right? We've all had those. We've all had those lifetimes.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, as they integrate, it's very difficult. It's very painful. You know, there'll be tears and screaming and fighting and railing against it, but it's still you, right? Part of your soul journey, part of your oversoul and avatar journey to understand what it means to be you, right? Having explored the depth and the breadth of all of these energies so we can be here now as celestial mediums of peace because we've gone through the duality. You know, we've been the monk meditating on the mountain and we've been the warrior, the killer, the dark one, right? And with that knowledge, now we can have balance because we've been there, we've done that, we know that. We know what that feels like. We know we don't want that anymore. I mean, that's my perspective anyway.
Hmm.
And on that note, I've got to go.
Yeah, I think, no, absolutely. I think I just want to add one more thing to this. There's also a certain level of awareness that is so expansive sometimes that we have to ask that old question, is this really mine? Yeah. This journey is sometimes, you know, we all have our different soul groups, right? And so lineages, and not everything has to be healed by us. Be aware of that, and let's close on that, because with what Tanya just said, I mean, there's a lot of work we have to do with our own shit. But now our levels of perception are going to start expanding far beyond that. So always ask the question, is this really mine for me to deal with? And be honest, you know? So let's thank you, Tana, for all of that, and thanks everyone for being here, and thank you for accommodating me on the change of time. And we're gonna see if we're gonna carry on like that. And I will send out the recording once I've eaten something, because I'm gonna fall over in a minute.
Right. Thank
Bye.
you. Thanks, everyone. Great to see
Bye.
you.
To
Bye.
be here. Bye.